Hi, our topic for today is income taxation, specifically deductions from gross income. We will begin with the nature of deductions. So in general, deductions are allowable deductions or business expenses and losses incurred in which the law allows to reduce gross business income to arrive the net income subjected to us. So generally, deductions are strictly construed against the taxpayer. They are not presumed but allowable only by reason of specific provisions of law and not under by general equitable or constitutional concept. So if you want to declare deductions on your ITR, the taxpayer must substantiate or has the available records to prove that he is entitled for that deduction. For example, you have to prepare adequate records that supports the deductions that you are declaring. Okay? So we have three types of deductions. The first one is the regular itemized deduction. Next is the OSD or optional standard deduction. And the third one is the specialized itemized deduction. So we will begin with the optional standard deduction. In view of the itemized deduction, we have the OSD or the optional standard deductions. So if ever that we're going to use OSD, we are not allowed to use the itemized deduction. If ever that you chose from the first quarter the optional standard deduction as an individual taxpayer, you have to uniformly declare or use OSD until fourth quarter. In using optional standard deduction, our base here is 40% to both individual and a corporation. But the basis here is different. If you're an individual taxpayer, you're entitled to use OSD at 40%, pero yung base niya is yung gross sales. Meaning, kapag gross sales, hindi pa dyan nade-deduct yung sales discounts and any deductions before arriving to the net sales. Therefore, kapag gross sales or gross receipts in case of services, hindi pa dyan nade-deduct yung cost of sales also. Kapag corporation naman ang magde-declare ng OSD, the corporation is entitled for 40% OSD based on the gross income. Meaning, kapag gross income yung basis niya, we have to deduct first cost of sales before computing for the 40%.
Okay, for example, Miss RPSV is a prominent independent contractor who offers architectural and engineering services. Since RPSV's career flourished, her total gross receipts amount to 4,250,000 for taxable year 2018. Her recorded cost of service and operating expenses were 2,150,000 pesos and 1 million pesos respectively. She opted to avail of the 40% OSD. As you can see, Miss RPSV is an individual taxpayer. Remember na kapag individual taxpayer ang nag-a-avail ng OSD, he or she is entitled to 40% OSD based on his or her gross sales or gross receipts. Meaning, kailangan natin i-disregard yung cost of sales and other expenses niya sa pagkuha ng OSD. Ang gross receipts niya from architectural and engineering services is 4,250,000 pesos. Imo-multiply natin siya by 40% to arrive at 1,700,000 pesos deductible OSD. Para naman makuha natin yung taxable income niya, ilaless naman natin yung 1,700,000 pesos na deductible OSD doon sa gross receipts niya, which is yung 4,250,000 pesos. Bali, ang net taxable income niya is 2,550,000 pesos. Para malaman naman natin yung income tax liability niya, titingnan lang natin yung bagong tax table under Section 24, subsection A to B ng tax code. As you can see, 2,550,000 pesos ang net taxable income niya. Ibig sabihin, nag-over siya sa 2 million. Ang tax due niya dun ay 490,000 pesos. And then yung excess na 550,000 pesos, i-multiply natin siya by 32%. Tapos i-add lang natin in order to arrive at her income tax due, which is 666,000 pesos. Okay, for another example, the gross sales of GEAL Corporation for 2018 amounted to 6 million pesos with cost of sales amounting to 4 million pesos. It incurred operating expenses amounting to 1 million pesos, and on the filing of its first quarter income tax return, it signified its intention to avail of the OSD. Dito naman, corporation ang mag-a-avail ng OSD. It is important to note na kapag corporation ang mag-a-avail ng OSD, that corporation is entitled to 40% OSD based on their gross income. Tulad nga ng sinabi ko kanina, bago natin computein yung 40%, ileless muna natin yung cost of sales ng corporation. Okay, ang given na gross sales ng GEAL Corporation is 6 million pesos. Then, kailangan nating iless yung cost of sales na 4 million pesos to arrive at their gross income, which is 2 million pesos. Saka pa lang natin i-compute ang 40% OSD. 2 million pesos times 40% is equal to 800,000 pesos. Then we're going to proceed to the computation of net taxable income, where gross income less OSD equals to 1,200,000 pesos. Para makompute naman natin yung tax due ng GEAL Corporation, kailangan natin i-multiply yung net taxable income nila sa corporate tax na 30% given by the tax law. Ganun lang, 30% ng 1,200,000 pesos is 360,000 pesos.
We have key points to remember when we are using optional standard deductions. First, sino-sino yung mga users that are allowed to declare OSD? The following are the taxpayers who can declare OSD. Una, yung mga individual taxpayers. Kapag individual taxpayers ang magde-declare ng OSD, ang allowed lang is resident citizen, mga resident aliens, another one, mga non-resident citizens. Kapag corporation naman, domestic corporation and resident for incorporation are only allowed to declare OSD. If an individual who is entitled to claim for OSD, he or she shall not be required to submit with his tax return the supporting financial statements. So we have now the itemized deductions. These are allowed deductible, ordinary, and necessary business expenses paid and incurred during the taxable year. So as a rule, kapag itemized deduction yung dinedeclare natin or kukunin or gagamitin natin as deductions from the gross income, the taxpayer must substantiate the following expenses kasi hindi yan magiging valid if ever wala siyang supporting documents or receipts. So the following are examples of the itemized deductions. We have general business expenses, as long as it is ordinary and necessary for the business. We have interest, losses, bad debts, depreciation, pero may exact or appropriate method of depreciation given by the tax law. We have also depletion of oil and gas wells and mines, as well as charitable and other contribution. We also have research and development and pension trust. It is also important to know the requisites for deductibility of general business expenses. So we have ordinary and necessary. When we say ordinary, it is reasonable and common. Pero kapag sinabi natin necessary, it is useful in the business only, not for personal consumption or usage. It must be substantiated with receipts. It must be reasonable in amount. Dapat parallel yung amount ng expenses sa isang entity nyo. It must withheld with tax. Okay, dito naman tayo sa materials and supplies. Actually, we have two types of supplies. Yung mga supplies na ginagamit natin sa office at yung mga ginagamit natin supplies pagdating sa factory. Tandaan lang natin na kapag ang material sa atin ay office supplies, then it could be office supplies expense. Therefore, pwede siyang maging part ng itemized deductions natin. Pero kapag ang supplies naman natin is factory supplies, it is part of the normal operating cycle, therefore, hindi natin siya pwedeng declare as expenses. Although it is considered expense under the financial accounting, which will take form part as the cost of goods sold. Pero dito, ang ginagawa kasi natin, or kinukuha natin is deductions from the gross income, not the deductions from the gross sales. Therefore, office supplies na ang mag-take part and within the normal operating cycle expense or supplies na ginagamit will take form part as cost of goods sold. So, the next one is the traveling expenses. If pagbabatayan natin is travel expenses, dapat yung travel is within and outside the country, while stay away from home in the pursuit of trade and business or profession. Expenses na kasama dito will be transportation expenses, meals and lodging, as long as they are incurred directly or related to the business operations or trade or profession. So, hindi kasama dito yung mga expenses na hindi naman related. For example, gumala ka, may binisita kang kaibigan sa lugar na yun, hindi siya kasama. So, yun yung mga travel expenses. Pagdating naman sa rent expenses, we have two methods of rental expenses as deductible expense. Depende yun sa ginamit nating method. Is it accrual or cash basis? But when we use accrual basis, kapag prepaid expense yung entry or transaction natin, ang i-declare lang natin as deductible rent expense doon is yung portion na expired within the taxable year as well as the cash basis. Pero kapag ang rent expenses incurred and paid, meaning na-incur mo siya or na-consume mo siya plus nabayaran mo siya, they will claim as rent expense na deductible sa gross income mo on both accrual and cash basis. Pero dito sa isa nagkaiba si accruals at si cash kasi kapag ang rent expense mo is incurred but not paid under kay accrual, expense na yan, deductible expense. Pero kapag cash basis ang ginamit mo or in-apply mo na accounting method, incurred but not paid, so this is not a deductible expense. Okay, dito naman tayo sa interest expense. Cost of money incurred within a taxable year of indebtedness in connection with the taxpayer's profession, trade, or business. So yung mga requisites lang enable for the interest expense to be deductible, there must be an actual indebtedness which is stipulated in writing. Dapat yung interest na yan ay related in the business or trade or profession. The interest must have been paid or accrued during a taxable year and must not be in favor of a relative kasi bawal po yan. May mga interest expense tayo na subjected to limit. Ano nga ba yung mga yun? If ever na may interest expense ka and at the same time may interest income ka which is subjected to 20% final tax, therefore yung interest expense mo will be reduced by 33%. For example, you have an actual interest expense of 400,000 pero meron ka at the same time na interest income which is subjected to 20% final tax. Therefore, hindi 400,000 yung ma-declare mo as deductible interest expense. It will be reduced by 33%. So, the 33% of the interest income will be reduced by your actual interest expense. So, mali-lesser yung interest expense na i-declare mo. Meron din tayong mga interest expense that are deductible in full, tsaka non-deductible interest expense. First, yung mga interest expenses na deductible in full. Ito yung mga interest expense na walang income subjected to 20% final tax, katulad ng sinabi ko kanina. Kasi kapag meron ka ng interest income na subjected to final tax, mare-reduce yung interest expense na pwede mong i-declare as deductible. And another one, the interest expense which is paid in favor of the government. For example, yung mga delinquent taxes, ayan, mga deductible sila. So, ano naman yung mga interest expense na non-deductible? Example is mga interest payment on indebtedness na not business related. Payment interest expense related to a relative, paid in advance, interest to carry purchase or carry tax exempt transactions, interest paid on indebtedness to finance petroleum explorations, and interest on unclaimed salaries. Hindi po sila deductible. At this juncture, we have optional treatment of interest expense. Pwede natin siyang i-treat as outright, meaning i-declare na agad natin siya as deduction sa ating gross income. But pwede din natin siyang ilagay as capital expenditure, meaning i-capitalize natin siya as depreciation. Paano nga ba siya magiging part ng deduction sa gross income? Kapag ang gamit is capital expenditure, it will take form part as deductible depreciation. Mae-expense pa din siya or magiging deduction pa din siya sa gross income through depreciation. Okay? So those are the methods of treatment of interest expense. At this point, we're going to proceed to taxes. In general, taxes are allowed as deduction when paid or incurred within the taxable year in connection with taxpayer's profession, trade, or business. So what are the requisites for the deductibility of taxes? First, it must be paid or incurred within the year. It must be paid or incurred in connection to the taxpayer's profession, trade, or business. And it must be imposed directly upon the taxpayer. So what are the taxes deductible from the gross income? Ito yung mga sample taxes na pwede nating i-deduct sa gross income. Yung mga documentary stamp tax, occupational taxes, privilege and license taxes, mga excise tax natin, import duties, local business taxes, mga licenses, automobile registration fees, community tax, at municipal tax. Pwede din income tax paid to foreign country if not claimed as a tax credit. How about those taxes that are not deductible from gross income? So we have Philippine income tax, estate and donors taxes, mga national taxes natin, foreign income tax if claimed as transactions, if claimed as tax credit, percentage tax on stock transactions, yung VAT natin or yung value added tax, taxes not related to business. Ayan, hindi po sila kasama in other items. Example, special assessment tax, surcharges, and compromise. So let's proceed with the bad debts expense. Generally, bad debts are deductible. Pero ano yung mga grounds para maging deductible siya? First, there must be a valid and subsisting claim. Meron kang receivable na valid na existing talaga. The claim must be connected within a profession, trade, or business. The claim must not be related to parties enumerated, yung mga related party, debtors, and the claim must be actually be ascertained to be worthless. Kapag sinabi natin worthless, doubted for collection, o kaya yung mga walang pag-asang makollect, kaya i-write off na natin siya. And uncollectible as the end of the taxable year, and the claim must be written off within the taxable year. Dapat naka-write off for us to claim bad debt expense as deduction sa ating gross income. How about non-deductible bad debts expense? Yung mga hindi connected sa trade and business arising from unpaid wages, salaries, and similar items, and the contract entered into between related taxpayers or members of the family. Dito naman tayo sa depreciation expense. So, an annual reasonable allowance to reduce useful value of tangible fixed asset resulting from wear and tear and normal obsolescence is allowed as deductions from the gross income. Pero marami kasi tayong methods of depreciation. Ang BIR or ang tax code ay nagsasuggest siya ng specific or mga appropriate methods na tinatanggap lang nila to be claimed as deductions. So, the methods for computing depreciation expense shall be included but are not limited to the following. Straight line. We have declining balance method, diminishing yung balance yan, and any other methods as prescribed by the Secretary of Finance upon the recommendation of the Commissioner. Okay. Dito tayo sa depreciation of properties used in petroleum operations. Kung ang properties ng petroleum operations ay may mga estimated useful life, we have to compare it sa suggested na estimated life according to the tax code. Kapag ang property is ginagamit talaga in the operations, ang limit lang niya is up to 10 years ang depreciation. Pero kapag other than in a normal operating cycle, hindi naman siya ginagamit or office equipment lang siya, ang pinaka-limit lang niya is it will be depreciated at the extent of 5 years. For example, yung mga properties na for petroleum operations like drilling machines, if ever yung estimated life niya is yung estimated life na actual niya is 15 years, hindi siya pwedeng ma-depreciate ng 15 years, kundi up to 10 years lang, sabi ng limit. On the other hand, tulad ng office equipment, 6 years lang yung life niya, pero hindi siya pwedeng ma-depreciate ng 6 years, kundi up to 5 years only. Okay, let's proceed to the deductible pension trust. An employer is allowed to deduct from the gross business income the contributions and payments made to pension trust in accordance with the reasonable private benefit plan. Dito sa Pilipinas, meron tayong dalawang klase ng benefit plan. We have the defined benefit plan, which is the employer handles and manages the fund, while the defined contribution plan, where there is a trust fund handled by a third person. What are the requirements of that plan? The plan must be reasonable and must be approved by the BIR. So, how do we account for the deductible pension trust? The tax code provides that the allowable deduction of pension trust is equal to the provision for the payment of reasonable pensions based on the actuarial agreement or valuation of the excess of the actuarial over the actual contribution is amortized over the period of 10 years. Okay? Dito naman tayo sa charitable and other contributions. Generally, charitable and other contributions are deductible from the gross income. Pero meron pa din tayo, again, mga requisites for this one in order for it to be valid deduction sa gross income natin. First, the taxpayer making the charitable contribution must be engaged in the profession or business. Pangalawa, there must be an actual payment of the contribution or gift. And then the recipient must be an entity or an institution. Income of the institution must not tenure to the benefit of the individual or private stockholder. Okay? Meron tayong mga contributions na deductible in full at meron din tayong mga contributions na subjected to limit. Ano-ano yung mga contributions na deductible in full? Ito yung mga donations to the government of the Philippines regarding to specific priority. Activities in education, health, youth and sports development, human settlements, and economic development. Another one, donations to international organizations in compliance with agreements, treaties, commitments entered into by the government of the Philippines and other foreign institutions. And dapat yung donations to accredited non-government organizations subject to the following requirements to be deducted in full. So dapat no more than 30%, which should be used for administrative purposes. If we are going to discuss research and development as deductible expenses to the gross income, ito lang yung mga basis niya. If it is ordinary and necessary expenses, pwede natin siyang i-deduct in the year the expenses are paid or incurred. Pero pwede din natin siyang i-defer. Pero kapag i-deferred natin sa research and development, it will be allowed as deduction ratably distributed over the period of not less than 60 months, beginning with the month which the taxpayers first realizes benefits from such expenditures of R&D or research and development. So, ayun, thank you guys. Sana may natutunan kayo kahit paano. By the way, ako nga pala si Cyrus Santos from the SBA Financial Management 2.
Here you go.